there's a huge transformation that's been happening. What do you care about? What is the biggest, time waster of your day? What's the biggest challenge? Where is the right place to start, and why is it AR, MR? For a really long time, augmented reality and mixed reality technologies just haven't been there. This is starting to change. We're starting to come out of that dip. The question comes down to, is it really worth it to purchase this thousands of dollars headset? Am I going to get the ROI out of it? So it's a pretty big risk. It's a big question. Number one is setting realistic expectations. Doesn't matter how cool your technology is. If something's not working, you can't connect to the internet, your model won't load, it's useless. See this technology as a workforce development accelerator. You're able to look at a space that's in front of you. Somebody else in another office can see exactly what it is. They can measure off of it. They can do a remote inspection. All sorts of things are now possible where it wasn't possible before. These are essential skills that we will need as builders to future-proof our organizations and ensure that we have technological agility, so we're not just surviving, but we're thriving in what's essentially the workforce of the future. We are on this transformational wave. Now is a really good time to start experimenting with this technology. If you haven't done so yet, at least try it. It's literally at your fingertips. Today's presentation, it's intended to be a pretty general overview. So spoiler alert, the presentation after me will definitely be showing a bit more detail about practical applications of AR, MR. So what I'm covering today is a bit more summarized or high level. And today's content, it is also courtesy of Placer Solutions, so I'll also explain a little bit more about the research reports that I've collaborated on with Placer and why we decided to focus on AR and MR today. So a little bit about me. My name's Erin. I've been in the construction industry for a bit over a decade at this point. But my origin story started out in LA as a student at USC studying civil engineering. So fight on if there are any other Trojans out there in the crowd. And I had my first experience as a project engineer intern renovating one of the buildings on campus. Super cool. We'll never get that good of a commute in LA ever again. So one of the things that was really eye-opening when I started that first experience was, oh my gosh, my role is to manage paper. And my teammates don't really know how to use their iPads, and nothing is digital. Why is this the case? I'm learning different things in school with all sorts of amazing technologies, but I don't see it in real life. So super passionate from day one about bringing technology into the field and having that practical application so we could build better, faster, safer, you name it. So fast forward, quite a few experiences. I had the absolute pleasure of focusing just on technology, innovation, piloting and scaling solutions that worked at Suffolk Construction. But at the end of last year and start of this year, decided I wanted to do more, so I started Erin Khan Consulting, start of 2023 in January, to support both builders and contractors who are building to find the right solutions for them, implement them well, and then also support construction technology startups with building better products and services that will connect better to the values that are out in the field. So that's a little bit about me. I'll also give a small shout out to the Women in Construction Tech community that I've recently joined as well. So please look us up on LinkedIn, feel free to join. We're always looking for more members. So with my consultancy starting this year, the timing was amazing to connect with Placer Solutions. So Nate Fuller, I'm sure you're out there somewhere, but Nate is the mastermind behind these research reports, which are really intended to bring the subject matter experts in the industry and synthesize a lot of information that's kind of buried out there into a really high quality, no sponsorship or any specific bias in any way, just pure technology and excellence for construction operations. So we're combining surveys, interviews, and quantitative and qualitative research and analysis to have high quality information out there in the industry. So the first report that we collaborated on is augmented reality and mixed reality. And we kind of wondered, like, well, where is the right place to start and why is it AR, MR? And the previous presentation touched on a lot of it. So spoiler alert, another Gartner hype cycle here. But we're starting to see this turning point to productivity. So to the previous point that was made in the presentation just before me, we do want to be on the other side of the curve. We want to be on this slope of enlightenment. And for a really long time, augmented reality and mixed reality technologies just haven't been there. They've kind of been stuck on that peak of inflated expectations. They've maybe been stuck in that trough of disillusionment. But general consensus out in the industry says that this is starting to change. We're starting to come out of that dip, and we're starting again to get into that slope of enlightenment and hit that plateau of productivity. So note to any of the builders out there, if you are looking for something to bring into your organization or just experiment with it, now is the time to really start learning more about these types of solutions. Something I forgot to mention as well, so with these research reports and the surveys and interviews, we're also about to start the next cycle, which is on digital twins. So if anybody's interested in participating in that digital twin survey or interview, please find myself or Nate. And there's some extra information that you get as a participant in the report. We're somewhere around exiting the trough of disillusionment for AR, MR. So when we specifically look at this type of technology and where it's come from, there's a huge transformation that's been happening, but it's been a little bit quieter because it's taken such a long time. So to give an idea of just how long the on-ramp for augmented and mixed reality is, this is a snapshot of one of the timelines from the report. So you'll see that even back in the 60s, we had the super cockpit program, for example. So you could sit there, stick your head into this super cockpit, initially developed for military applications, and have some sort of an extended reality experience. And then we see, maybe 40 years later, we still haven't really connected that well back to construction. It's still kind of lagging. So the turning point a little bit, I'll point out in 2017, Visual Alive, which was acquired by Unity, kind of changed the game in many ways, where it was now a little bit more accessible to the field. We could actually download an app, like there's an app for everything, and be able to interact with our building in a different way. So as we continue along this journey, and again, it has been a slow on-ramp, it's starting to pick up speed and accelerate, especially as we get into the next generation of startups. So basic definitions here, and there is some hot debate on if it's even worth distinguishing between augmented reality and mixed reality. But for the purposes of the report and for the purposes of speaking in practical terms to users in the field, this is basically what it boiled down to. So taking a field-first approach, augmented reality, typically users speak about it with using a mobile device or a tablet, so your phone or iPad, and you have a model that's on your phone or iPad, you overlay it, and similar to the picture that you see, you can see that projected image. Mixed reality, most often end users describe it as being in an immersive headset. So you'll see the couple of end users there in an XR10, and they have a 1-to-1 ratio through their field of view, where they can directly see through their eyes with that overlay what the model is going to look like, how it overlays with the real life scenario, and then also do gestures. So one is a device that's handheld typically, and the other is more immersive and worn on your head. So with these types of technologies, there are many challenges that come with it. And again, this is just a very small subset and a general overview of what's out there. But one of the biggest ones is organizational. So a lot of times, and we've been talking about it all morning, right? We don't quite have enough resources. There's lack of internal alignment. The processes between different departments don't make sense. So it kind of takes a bit of strategy, a bit of structure to kind of put these levers into place to overcome this challenge. So a lot of times we see this starting first with VDC teams or BIM teams, where they have the technical know-how of how to use the solution, but maybe they don't quite have the resources to have the right devices. Or maybe it's the field users that just aren't accessing the right things. So taking a deeper look at the specifics behind it can help reduce that friction. So the next challenge is technological. So we underinvest in technology in general in construction. Budgets are a little tight. I'll also point out for the technological piece as well, there is a barrier to entry just with the device hardware specifically. So the question comes down to, is it really worth it to purchase this thousands of dollars headset? Am I going to get the ROI out of it? So it's a pretty big risk. It's a big question for organizations to answer. So I'll get to this a little bit later, but there are many, many ways to access the technology in a way that is budget friendly. And then last but not least, so augmented and mixed reality solutions, where they shine is in collaborative efforts to communicate visually. But a lot of times there are many different stakeholders involved. So it's a matter of tracking down all these stakeholders. Do you have the right information in the model? Do you have the right person reviewing that information in AR or MR to make decisions on it? And then is that information getting back to the right stakeholders to act on those decisions? So it can be pretty complex, especially with the whole value chain and the stakeholders that are involved in that process. So there's definitely more about the challenges in the report, but I'll show some resources later as well. So moving on to best practices. So for tech providers specifically, number one is setting realistic expectations. So the image that you see here on my left, your right, this is a marketing image from Microsoft about the HoloLens pretty early on. I think it was around 2017. And it kind of looks, quite honestly, like Star Wars holograms. It seems like this worker is being able to easily walk through and see all sorts of things aligned, and it's really easy. And as we quickly found out, that just was not the experience that we had. So the headsets were clunky, the alignment didn't align. The headsets couldn't be used on construction sites because you literally can't see when you're in an outdoor environment, or the lighting is a problem. So having expectations like this did a little bit of damage to the adoption curve of this technology over time, because excited first-time users went into this saying, oh, this is going to be great. Look at this image. Like, it's going to be the best thing ever. And it just wasn't. So it kind of put a bad feeling about technology and had that disappointment, which I think extended that trough that AR and MR has been in for a while. And we're just now being able to kind of get out of that a little bit. So for tech providers, don't oversell it too much. Be realistic, and then understand exactly what process you're connecting with and why, because that will help align values a lot better. So the next takeaway for tech providers, so easy and effective, and I always say ease of use is pretty much number one. So a majority of my time, especially spent in innovation, was literally working with teams saying, okay, press this button, and then you press this button, and then you press this button, and now you're able to do this with your process. So if you think about it, if you have to train somebody on how to press 27 different buttons or clicks or whatever it is versus 3 to 4, they're probably going to throw out that 27 and much prefer that 3 to 4. So something to keep top of mind is time is very, very precious, especially in the field. So if something's not working, you can't connect to the internet, your model won't load. it's useless. It doesn't matter how cool your technology is. If you can't access it very quickly, and I like to use that 3 to 4 clicks or taps, it's going to be really tough to get that adoption with the field because they need to run off to the next thing. The other thing as well, so one of the images there's of a new grad student in the office who had never seen a HoloLens before, so they're inspecting it. They have no idea really how to use that out in the field, so making it intuitive and humanistic will be a key part of this moving forward. There's a lot to say as well with headsets and the design and how that's evolving. I think the Apple device that's now on the market is a right step forward, but we still have a bit of a ways to go with getting something that's rugged and effective enough for the field, but it hopefully will be here soon. So on the flip side, for builders, and very high level here, so see this technology as a workforce development accelerator. It's pretty amazing what the up-and-coming talent can do these days. So I'll pick on the image of the little girl, and it's technically a VR headset pointing, but does anybody want to throw out, how old do you think she is? 5. She's 4. She's 4. So we had brought in students, young kids, to expose them to construction technology, different career paths through the Project Scientist program. This was back when I was at Suffolk. And this 4-year-old in the headset, we showed her just a minute or two, oh, here's the remote, went off and was flying through this model, moving things around. And we're like, wow, I didn't even know that could move in the model. So these are digital natives, I would say, or the expectation is that the technology is easy to work with and it's in that humanistic manner. So these are just skill sets that are in the talent that's up and coming. One thing that was also very uncanny with a lot of the interviewees that went through the survey process or the interview process is that a lot of them who were very effective at executing AR, MR processes on their projects, they all had some sort of a tech exposure in high school or middle school. So very early on in their development, they either got exposure to doing something in architecture or doing a hands-on building activity or learning CAD, and that basically opened up their career path to considering technology as something absolutely legitimate and something that could connect them back with construction. So technology really is making construction cool. It's an amazing pipeline, and it's definitely worth investing in some of these programs. So also on this slide, I have the ACE Mentor program. That's something that I've also been a part of in my past life. So I would also encourage anybody out there to get involved with programs like these that are supporting students very early on and then developing what's essentially the workforce of the future. And these are essential skills that we will need as builders to future-proof our organizations and ensure that we have technological agility moving forward, so we're not just surviving, but we're thriving and able to easily take in the advantages and opportunities of the tech that's in the marketplace today. So moving on, also for builders, so I don't think we talk about some of this stuff enough, but ESG, environmental social governance, is increasingly more important, especially when we talk about innovation culture and how to build collaborative teams and how to change mindset and do organizational change. Technology can, in and of itself, be a foundation for that. So specifically with augmented and mixed reality, we found that it was incredibly great with the social component, and a really close second was the environmental component. So with the social piece, we talked earlier, one of the challenges is that there are so many stakeholders, but if it's done well, it can also be one of the greatest strengths of this technology. So being able to put somebody in a headset, or they can see it on their PC, or they're remoting in from another place, you're creating connections amongst your entire value chain and life cycle of the project, where now it's not just a siloed process, but everybody's involved, and you're having a much better outcome because there are more well-informed opinions about what is going to be built in your space. And then with the environmental component, with a lot of the solutions today, you're able to, for example, take out your AR app, look at a space that's in front of you. Somebody else in another office can see exactly what it is. They can measure off of it. They can do a remote inspection. You can do observations. All sorts of things are now possible where it wasn't possible before. So what this means is there's reduced travel, we have better data, we're saving on carbon emissions, so that's also another plus with this technology. So the future outlook is pretty bright for AR, MR. So earlier I mentioned now is a really good time to start experimenting with this technology if you haven't done so yet. And it's especially good right now because we are on this transformational wave where the hardware, the software is definitely getting better. The lessons learned from the first wave of solutions that we've seen in like early 2017 and so on have been improved a lot more. So a lot of these specifics are being overcome, and it's continuous, right? So we're not stopping this evolution. It's only building momentum, and we are going to see that, that plateau of productivity. And then, so everybody loves a logo slide, but this is just a few solutions that are on the market that you can go to, search them up. A lot of them do have free trials. So we talked earlier again about the cost and some of the barriers. There's no R&D, there's no budget. You don't have to have necessarily a crazy big budget to experiment with these types of solutions. If you have an iPhone and access to the App Store, there are probably, a handful on here that you could try out today. So what I really want to encourage everybody here is at least try it. This week is the perfect week to get immersed in some of this stuff. And what I hope everybody takes away from here is just a little bit of inspiration to try something new. So if you haven't tried it yet, go ahead and do it. It's literally at your fingertips to be able to do so. And then the last piece of this slide here, so you'll see that it's all filtering back to this one construction worker. And in the first panel, I think I summed it up as listen, care, collaborate. So it really matters what that worker, what that person cares about at the end of the day. So we don't want to willy-nilly, pick out an AR, MR solution because it's cool and fancy and shiny. We actually want to ask this worker, what do you care about? What is the biggest, time waster of your day? What's the biggest challenge? And see how that strategically connects back to what the solution can solve for that person, because that's where the effectiveness will happen. So it really starts with that field user, and it can't just be done, again, by somebody who's in a VDC role or on a specific team. It has to be all-encompassing down to those boots on the ground who are going to be driving this process. So with this report, and BN Builders is up right after me, but there were a lot of many industry participants, some of which are here today, and you can access the full report at the QR code below. Also search up Placer Solutions. So again, thanks Nate and Placer for having this report accessible to the market now, and pulling together all of this amazing information and insights really from people who have actually tried this and done this well. So additional resources, I'm also here, so please feel free to connect with me. You can reach out anytime. I'm always happy to chat, contact. I've been in the space for a while, so this is definitely what I geek out about. So feel free to set up a conversation, and we can get to collaborating. So with that, thank you to RCN and the whole team here for having me speak and share a little bit about AR/MR with you guys. And with that, thanks so much. And then the next presentation will dive a little bit deeper into some more specifics. So thank you.